ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Brihad Mridanga ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, all glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachaline Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Desyatadine. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna devotees, thank you for attending my first class here at ISKCON Philadelphia. And I'm very pleased and happy to have the opportunity to do my best to serve the devotees here. Please excuse me for any gross errors or offenses that I may make in anything that I may be saying, or any pronunciation or anything of that matter. I am a very lowly conditioned soul trying to speak what I've heard from Srila Prabhupada and the devotees here. So thank you very much for taking the time to come to the class. So we'll start by chanting the verse 3 times. I'll chant it. We'll just pull it up here quickly. And it's both sides. Okay. Tataivanuchara Shaure Shrutadevo Dhavadaya Sunanda Nanda Shirshanya Ye Chanye Sat Vasharshabaha Api Svastya Sate Sarve Rama Krishna Bhuja Shrayaha Api Smaranti Kushalyam Asmakam Badha Saurida Tataivanuchara Shaure Shrutadevo Dhavadaya Sunanda Nanda Sirsanya Ye Chanye Satvasar Shabaha Api Svasji Asat Sarve Rama Krishna Bhujastrayaha Api Smaranti Kusharyam Asmakam Bhadasauridha Tataivanuchara Shaure Shrutadevo Dhavadaya Sunanda Nanda Shirshanya Ye Chanye Satvasar Shabaha Api Swasti Ashat Sarve Rama Krishna Bhuja Shayaha Api Smaranti Kosharyam Asmakam Badhasauridha. Would anyone like to chant?
The screen doesn't show the verse.
Mm-hmm. Let me share the screen. Yeah. Okay.
Tataiva nuchara shaure Shruta devodvavadhaya Sunandananda shirshanya Yechanye Sattvatar Apishvastyasate sarve Rama Krishna bhujashrayah Api smaranti kushalam Asmakam baddha shaurida.
Thank you, Vishnu. Anyone else?
तथैवानुचरा शौरे श्रुतदेवोत्थवाधया सुनन्दनन्द शीर्षन्या ये चान्ये सात्वतर्षभा अपि स्वस्त्यासुते सर्वे रामकृष्ण भुजाश्रया अपि स्मरन्ति कुशलम् अस्माकं भक्त सौहृदा
Tataiva nuchara shore shruta deva deva dayaya sunandananda shirshanya yechanye satyavartshabaha api swasti aste sarve Rama Krishna bhujashrayaha api smaranti kushalam Asmakam Bada Soridaha.
तथैवानुचारशौरे श्रुतदेवोऽधवादया सुनन्दनन्दशीर्षन्या ये चान्ये सत्त्वदर्शभा अपि स्वस्यासते सर्वे रामकृष्णभुजश्रया अपि स्मरन्ति कुशलम् अस्माकं बद्धसौहृदा.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Read the word for word. Tata eva, similarly. Anucharaha, constant companions. Shaure, of Lord Sri Krishna, such as Shrutadev, Uddhava, Adaya, Uddhava and others. Sunanda, Nanda, Shirshanya, other leaders. Ye, all of them. Cha, and Anye, others. Sattvata, liberated souls. Rishabha, the best of men. Api, if. Svasti, doing well. Asate, are. Sarve, all of them. Rama, Balaram. Krishna, Lord Krishna. Bhuj, Ashrayaha, under the protection of. Api, if also. Smaranti, do remember. Kushalyam, welfare. Asmakam, about ourselves. Bada, Sauhridha, bound by eternal friendship. Translation. Also, Shrutadev, Uddhava, and others, Nanda, Sunanda, and other leaders of liberated souls who are constant companions of the Lord, are protected by Lord Balaram and Krishna. Are they all doing well in their respective functions? Do they, who are all eternally bound in friendship with us, remember our welfare? Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The constant companions of Lord Krishna, such as Uddhava, are all liberated souls, and they descend along with Lord Krishna to this material world to fulfill the mission of the Lord. The Pandavas are also liberated souls who descend along with Lord Krishna to serve him in his transcendental pastimes on earth. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 4.8, the Lord and his eternal associates, who are also liberated souls like the Lord, come down on this earth at certain intervals. The Lord remembers them all, but his associates, although liberated souls, forget due to their being tatashta shakti, or marginal potency of the Lord. That is the difference between the Vishnu Tattva and the Jiva Tattva. The Jiva Tattvas are infinitesimal potential particles of the Lord, and therefore they require the protection of the Lord at all times. And to the eternal servitors of the Lord is pleased to give all protection at all times. The liberated souls never, therefore, think themselves as free as the Lord or as powerful as the Lord, but they always seek the protection of the Lord in all circumstances, both in the material world and in the spiritual world. This dependence of the liberated soul is constitutional, for the liberated souls are like sparks of a fire that are able to exhibit the glow of fire along with the fire and not independently. Independently, the glow of the sparks is extinguished, although the quality of fire or the glowing is there. Thus, those who give up the protection of the Lord and become so-called lords themselves out of spiritual ignorance come back again to this material world, even after prolonged tapasya of the severest type. That is the verdict of all Vedic literature. Okay. Now we have Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Vinmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sva Pandatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saha Gana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vaishnavamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopashe Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancha Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranami Hari Priye Vanchakopa Tarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patinam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna devotees, mentioned a bit earlier, but I just wanted to ask permission and blessings from all of the senior Vaishnavas and devotees here. I am the lowest of the low, and I am very honored to be speaking, and I'm just asking permission and begging forgiveness for any mistakes that I may make. So thank you very much. So this verse has a lot going on from what I can tell, a lot of different aspects in relation to the different divisions of the energies of the Lord. So in researching it, the angle that I was looking at was, this first of all, how the different energies of Vishnu or Krishna are expanding out and becoming different aspects of living entities. So as this verse describes, we have the Vishnu Tattva and the Jiva Tattva. And then we're also looking at what is Tatashta Shakti. So in this, one interesting aspect is that this Tatashta Shakti here, these liberated souls are eternal associates, is what Srila Prabhupada is saying, is that as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord and his eternal associates who are liberated souls like the Lord come down on this earth at certain levels. The Lord remembers them all, but his associates, although liberated souls, forget due to their being Tatashta Shakti. So another verse that this Tatashta Shakti is mentioned is this verse, the CC Majja 20, 108, 109. Jiver Sadrup Hoy Krishna Nitya Das Krishna Tatashta Shakti Bheda Bhed Prakash. So this is a very popular verse, very famous verse. And this verse that's just the first half of it, but it is the living entity's constitutional position to be an eternal servant of Krishna, because he is the marginal energy of Krishna and a manifestation simultaneously one with and different from the Lord. So this Tatashta Shakti, from what I can understand, Tatashta is like a beach. So as living entities and as a part and parcel of Krishna, we're in a position of this middle ground. So another way it's described as the marginal potency. So the marginal potency can go towards Krishna or go away from Krishna. And what I understand from this is that our constitutional position as a living entity is to actually be a servant of Krishna and to be connected in with Krishna. But what we've done is as living entities, as conditioned souls, we have moved our energy and our consciousness towards the other side, towards the side of the inferior energy of the Lord, because ultimately what the Lord is exhibiting is these three different energies, which is this conditioned soul, which is the Tatashti or marginal energy. And then we have the inferior energy, which is this external material world that we're experiencing, although it is still energy of the Lord, it is an inferior energy. And then there's the ultimate energy or the superior energy of the Lord, which is the spiritual energy. Although we as living entities are actually, we are fully spiritual in our nature. We are fallen and taken towards this marginal energy. So the question is why? Why are we doing this? Because what Srila Prabhupada said is that we want to be the predominator somehow or other. Prabhupada puts it in so many different places. He says somehow or other we came to this material world too far back that we can even possibly keep track of. But whatever it is, we found ourselves here. But ultimately, the reason why we found ourselves here is because we wanted to somehow be the predominator or be the master, be the enjoyer. And what's happening when we make this attempt is that we end up suffering, because in this attempt to be the master and the predominator, our true nature is covered, and we can never actually find and get the happiness that we're seeking in the eternal spiritual realm, because we're in illusion in this material world. So just to go back to this particular verse with from the CC 20, 108, 109, Jiver Sarupoi Krishna Nitya Das Krishna Tatashta Shakti Bheda Bhed Prakash. We're simultaneously one and different. That's Bhedha Bhed Prakash. So in this purport to this verse, we could show it. I just want to read it because there's a very interesting point, a very poignant aspect in the purport where Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains this verse. And so I'll just read the purport and make a couple points on it, but specifically what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says about this verse, which ties into this Tatashta Shakti and the different jiva tattvas and different things. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains these verses as follows. Sri Sanatan Goswami asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who am I? So Srila Sanatana Goswami was a very learned, everyone had related to him like he was this, very intelligent minister, but because of however it happened to arise in him, his intelligence, and this is the mark of real intelligence, according to Srila Prabhupada, is that we ask this question of who am I? Why do I have to suffer? And who am I really? Am I this body? Am I my mind? So this is the question that Srila Sanatana Goswami asked. Who am I? And what's the answer that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said? Well, here we go. You are a pure living entity. You are neither the gross material body nor the subtle body composed of mind and intelligence. Actually, you are a spirit soul, eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, of the Supreme Soul, Krishna. Therefore, you are his eternal servant. You belong to Krishna's marginal potency. There are two worlds, the spiritual world and the material world, and you are situated between the material and the spiritual potencies. You have a relationship with both the material and the spiritual world. Therefore, you are called the marginal potency. You are related with Krishna as one and simultaneously different. So this is just to go off of this purport for a minute. This apparent contradiction in spiritual life comes up a lot. It's like we're either we're one and different. How can you be one and different? It kind of goes above the logical mind. We can't conceive with our small brains how we can be one and different of something. But one way that Srila Prabhupada describes it, not exactly in this exact aspect, but so if you take a candle and that candle is lighting a fire for another candle, technically that candle is not being diminished, but it's being, and that candle is one and the same of the original fire, but it's also different. So this is one way to think about it. Like, although it can be a little bit bewildering to try to conceive of how we can be one and different, but that's why we recognize that our small intellect and our small intelligence does not have the ability to fully realize the scope of what's happening on the spiritual domain and in the spiritual world. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur puts it, there is a spiritual world and a material world, and conditioned souls such as myself and the majority of the people on this, in the living entities here, are trapped in this material concept, which gives us a very weak intelligence. But back to this. So you have a relationship with the material and spiritual worlds. Therefore, you are called the marginal potency. You are related with Krishna as one and simultaneously different. Because you are spirit soul, you are one in quality with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because you are a very minute particle of spirit soul, you are different from the Supreme Soul. Therefore, your position is simultaneously one with and different from the Supreme Soul. The examples given here are those of the sun itself and the small particles of sunshine, and of a blazing fire and the small particles of fire. As I mentioned, although this is a bit different from what I mentioned, what Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktivinoda Thakur are pointing out here is that there's a fire, and Krishna is that fire, and the living entities such as ourselves are sparks of that fire. So you can conceive of it as the fire and the sparks are the same and they're different. Also, the sunshine, the sun is the blazing, is the source, and the particles, or the particles of sunshine that are coming, is it the sun? Not necessarily, but because it's a particle of the sun, but at the same time it is the sun. So in that same way, we are particles and connected with the Supreme Krishna, and at the same time we are different from him. But we have fallen away from that. And why have we fallen away from that? Because we have wanted to lord it over the material nature. So one point that's interesting about this, about, because I was trying to understand this for myself, is like, why, if we're marginal energy, Tatash to Shakti, marginal energy, and even the liberated souls don't have remembrance, as this purport puts it. There's so many parts of this original purport from the 114, 32, 33 verse that it took me a lot to try. Even now I'm trying to understand like the different aspects. I mean, there's so many different aspects in this particular verse that are very, very deep. So what is being said is that the liberated souls, the Lord and his eternal associates, who are also liberated souls like the Lord, come down on this earth at certain levels, at certain intervals. And the Lord remembers them all, but his associates, although liberated souls, forget due to their being Tatash Shakti. So somehow, even as a liberated soul, we're forgetting, the liberated souls are forgetting that they were coming down, and they're coming to earth at certain levels, or at certain intervals. And so what to speak of us, where we are not liberated souls, and we're trying to enjoy in this material world, but ultimately what Srila Prabhupada says is that that's the whole problem with us as conditioned souls, is that we are continually attempting to be the enjoyer, and to be the predominator, and to be the master. And as long as we attempt to be that master and that enjoyer, we end up in this cycle of suffering. But with that being said, even as Srila Prabhupada puts it at the end of this purport, where he says, those who give up the protection of the Lord, how do we give up the protection of the Lord? Well, there's a few different points that we'll make on that, but we give up the protection of the Lord and become so-called lords themselves out of spiritual ignorance. Actually, there's a small booklet, and it's called The Art of Eternal Love, Bhakti Yoga. And I was sharing that book on book distribution, and I was going through it. And one point in there that really stood out to me when I was showing it to a person flipping through, it said, what is the most dangerous thing in this material world? What is the most dangerous thing for a living entity? And what it mentioned is that the most dangerous thing for the living entity is ignorance. So us being ignorant. And so then what is the most valuable thing for living entities in this material world is knowledge, avidya. So actual knowledge of our spiritual nature is what pulls us out of suffering. And because, as Srila Prabhupada is saying here, out of spiritual ignorance, we come back again to this material world. What happens when we come back to this material world? Birth, death, old age, and disease. And we're pulled into this material world, and we're surrounded by this materialistic society, especially in the West, having grown up in it myself and being more or less completely ignorant of this for the majority of my life, moving, up to the first 35 years of my life, being, trying to be an enjoyer, trying to be the predominator, but constantly finding failure and being ignorant of the actual goal of life. So what we have been given by Srila Prabhupada is this knowledge, is this wisdom, so that we can pull ourselves out, because this spiritual ignorance. And even if, these great, I guess you could say great demons in the aspect of how they, that we can look at from scripture, like Hiranyakashipu and Kamsa, and, these different demons that had this, and Ravana, that had this prolonged tapasya of the severest type. They really did a lot of tapasya, and even so it somehow gained them some benefit, at least in their own mind, of this. It gained them some benefit in this material world, so that they could be more of a master and more of a lord. of the predominator, and really double down on this kind of mentality of trying to enjoy and be the controller. And for a little while, that really seems like it works. Even, we can see that in our life and in large figures, kind of the modern day demigods that we see, movie stars and business people and things like that. Like they perform tapasya in their business careers, and they do things like, for example, this popular kind of richest man in the world or whatever, Elon Musk. You hearing him talk, I have the misfortune of having to hear him speak sometimes, just kind of in passing on different websites and things, that he's like working so hard and he can't work any harder, and he's working 20 hours a day, and he's got all of these things. But in actuality, like, no matter what he's doing, even though so many different people are looking at him as like some kind of practically demigod, and they want to be like him, and he's the richest man in the world, he can do anything, but he's still working so hard. Why? Because he's working it's useless labor. It has no basis for the actual spiritual values and spiritual goal of life. So everything he's doing, even though he's performing all of this tapasya, he still has to come back again to this material world. Nothing that he can get in this material world will actually provide any lasting value. And this is something that we can try to understand and keep at the forefront of our minds. At least for myself, I know this is something that I have to maintain high level of awareness about, which is that this material world is a place of suffering. And no matter how much we try to put the position in place so that we can become the master or the enjoyer, it will not work for us. And it is very easy in this materialistic society to be drawn into the idea that we'll find happiness, because there's so much, especially in the age of social media, and everything's online and everyone's presenting this idea that they're so happy. So with this tendency, with this marginal potency that we have, and this somehow or other ended up in this position of wanting to enjoy in this material world, we get pulled towards this illusion, this maya, that happiness is going to come to us here in this material world, which, as Prabhupada says, no matter what, no matter how hard we work, no matter how much tapasya we end up with of the severest type, right, we still have to come back to this material world. And why do we have to come back? Because of spiritual ignorance. One other interesting aspect in relation to this, there's a class that Srila Prabhupada gave in 1972 at Sri Chaitanya Math, which in India. And Srila Prabhupada makes some interesting points about this Vishnu Tattva and the Jiva Tattvas. And so I don't know if, I think I sent that link, but just really quickly, I wanted to just discuss a couple points in relation to the Jiva Tattvas that Srila Prabhupada, but actually mostly focusing on the point about this enjoying spirit and how the world is suffering on this false predominating position, as Srila Prabhupada puts it. So just to kind of understand, just to touch on the Vishnu Tattva part in this, it's about halfway down, scrolling down. Krishna expands himself. It starts with Krishna expands himself. There we go. Krishna expands himself. Eko Bahu Swayam. According to Vedic description, the first is Vishnu Tattva. So as this verse is pointing out, there's Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. And from what I can understand from my research here on this, the Jiva, so as Srila Prabhupada puts it, Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. The Vishnu Tattva is called Samsa. There is no difference between one Vishnu Tattva and another. Just like Vishnu, Ramachandra, he is Vishnu Tattva, Narayana, Vishnu Tattva, Balaram, Vishnu Tattva. So there's no difference in power. They are called Samsa, Samsa Vishtara. And there are other Vishtara. That is called Vibhinmangsa, Vishtara, separated part and parcel. And here's where it comes into where our position. We the Jivas, we are also expansions of Krishna or Vishnu. So we are expansions of Krishna, but we are a small separated part and parcel where Vishnu Tattva is the expansion. They are full in power. The Vishnu Tattvas are known as Purusha avatars, whereas Jiva Tattvas are known as Shakti Tattva. So in this way, it gets into this Mayavadi aspect where the Jiva, they think that the Jiva Tattvas can become God, or so that the Jiva Tattva can be God, which is, as Srila Prabhupada puts it, a false theory. That fits right into the materialistic concept of life, which is that we can, this was like Mayavadi and materialism comes very close together because especially like how it's presented in this modern world, like you can be the best, you can be the top, you can reach, you can be you can enjoy happiness in this world, and you can basically be the enjoyer. But it doesn't work out that way, as we've been able to see. But this interesting point, it comes down where Prabhupada's, it breaks, there's a break, and it says the natural endeavor of the jiva, the living entities, to have control over this material world is false. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness movement is propagated to make them understand that their endeavor to lord it over the material nature will always be frustrated. An example can be given one gentleman, not more than one wife. So if the wives quarrel between themselves, that one wife will enjoy another or predominate over the other wives. That is not possible. So this enjoying spirit should be given up. This enjoying spirit is Maya. Maya means illusion. So we have fallen into this Maya. And if we scroll back down, just scroll to the last paragraph here. The whole world is suffering on this false predominating position. The human forms, so the human form different parties, this party and that party. But if you have got the same disease means spirit of predominating. At the present moment, that is going on. We can see that now, where everyone, these different governments and this, one nation, another nation, one group and another group. But in actuality, Srila Prabhupada is saying all of those things are useless. Why? Because it's still based on the same disease. Underneath all of these different factions in this material world and these attempts to try to find some sort of peace or happiness or basis of enjoyment, that's all they're actually trying to do. But it's based on a false narrative of life, which is that we can be the enjoyer and we can find true happiness here. So and as Srila Prabhupada puts it here, it's a disease, and that disease means the spirit of predominating. So take, for example, the Communist Party or the Jana Sangha Party or this party or that party. They have formed different parties, but the disease is that that I shall predominate. So this party forming with the disease condition that I shall be the enjoyer, there cannot be any peace. I think this is like, for me, and in the Krishna consciousness movement, is something that's like really inspiring and has helped me really stay connected to it, is this recognition, because somehow in my life, I realized, like, before I came to Krishna consciousness, I was like so frustrated and found so many difficulties, but I didn't have any alternative. All I had was this materialistic way of life. But then what Srila Prabhupada in his books was able to open up for my consciousness was to see, like, there's another way, there's a whole nother approach to life. And that is to serve the higher supreme power, as opposed to trying to be the supreme power. And this has been a really, this is like a very unbelievable concept that is practically not understood by anyone in this world, except for those who have come in contact with Srila Prabhupada. So we have such a fortunate position to be there, in that position, to have found this knowledge. So one other quick aspect that I just want to touch on in relation to this verse, back to the 114, 32, 33, is how Srila Prabhupada references the Bhagavad Gita 4:8 and the different times, the intervals that his eternal associates come down. And this, so if we just go to this verse 4:8, and I'm just going to go for about 5 more minutes, and then we'll open it up to questions and comments. Is just this verse here. We can just quickly go over this verse in Bhagavad Gita 4:8. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam dharma samstapanatar stapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So the kind of Srila Prabhupada is referencing this verse from this last verse that we're actually doing here. I state the Lord and his eternal associates, who are liberated souls like the Lord, come down to earth at certain levels. So why do they come? Well, because Krishna wants them to come, and because Krishna always has his associates, and we're very clear that Krishna comes, so they come with Krishna, right? But why does Krishna come? To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants. And so at the same time, those associates are also coming to help fulfill the mission of Krishna. So the associates of Krishna are also coming to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants. And this verse, or this purport, has many very interesting aspects to it. But the one that I wanted to really focus on as we end this class is to discuss this current age that we're in, this age of Kali. And so, as in this last paragraph of this purport, Srila Prabhupada makes a mention of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the Lord says, so in this last paragraph, the Lord says that he incarnates himself in every millennium. This indicates that he incarnates also in the age of Kali. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the incarnation in the age of Kali is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who spread the worship of Krishna by the Sankirtan movement. So we are part of this Sankirtan movement directly from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we have this opportunity to stay, to not have to do any severe tapasya. We can chant the Hare Krishna mantra and actually revive this spiritual nature and take ourselves from the inferior energy of the superior of the Lord and move towards from the inferior energy to the superior energy of the Lord, and in the meanwhile make ourselves actually blissful and actually happy. The more that we try to find happiness in this inferior energy, the more we're going to be frustrated. But just to go back to this verse here, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who spread the worship of Krishna by the Sankirtan movement, congregational chanting of the holy names, and spread Krishna consciousness throughout India. He predicted that this culture of Sankirtan would be broadcast all over the world, which it now is happening, which, as we can see, is being broadcast all over the world by the grace of Srila Prabhupada and the devotees. From town to town and village to village, Lord Chaitanya is the incarnation of Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Is described secretly, but not directly in the confidential parts of the revealed scriptures. So the devotees of the Lord are very much attracted by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. This avatar of the Lord does not kill the miscreants, but delivers them by his causeless mercy. So we, in this age of Kali and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, instead of coming and killing the demons as he did when he was here, as Krishna did, on the battle of Kurukshetra, or that will happen with Kalki Avatar. Right now we have a very easy, pleasurable, wonderful process, joyful process of attaining the mercy of the Lord. And even the demons, even the lowest of the low, the Jagais and Madais, which were all in this Western world, basically the entire world is consumed by it. We are all like these Jagai Madais that we have no qualification to get this mercy, but because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being so magnanimous and compassionate to the fallen living entities in Kali Yuga, we have an opportunity to perform Sankirtan and move ourselves towards the position of happiness and bliss in this material world, moving towards the spiritual world. So that is, at this point, I'll stop because it's 8:40. I don't want to take too much time. If there's any questions, corrections, comments, or anything that any devotees might want to say, please say it now. I'll also, any questions, I'll do my best to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sasi-sekhara Prabhu. Let's see if there's any questions from the devotees or comments.
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking is it is still so difficult. I mean, I think just now I have understood the fact that we don't belong here and we are in a wrong place, trying to find happiness where we will never find it. It's such a difficult point to convey to others and convince others. And I feel unless we accept that, will we take this path? You know, I have people always saying, oh, but this is the real stuff. You know, there is suffering going on now. Help, you know, people who are suffering here. And the fact that we will never be happy here is so difficult to convince.
Yeah, well, it's difficult to convince myself,
Yes,
right?
yes.
That's where it's, and I think that's the aspect of Maya that keeps us in illusion. It's like, so I think there's two aspects to the material energy. There's like the throwing and the covering, or like there's kicking and covering. So it's like, it's covering the eternal nature. But what we can attempt to do is to purify these anarthas that we have in relation to thinking this happiness is actually going to provide something. Another component to that would be to recognize that, like, this enjoying is going on in all the species of life. The pig is enjoying, the dog is enjoying, the worm and stool is enjoying. So this is where this knowledge comes in, this purification and knowledge. So if we purifying ourselves by chanting the Maha Mantra so that our intelligence can be awakened, and that then we can absorb this knowledge from Srila Prabhupada and make that the center of our life, which, I mean, I'm at the same time doing the same, trying to purify myself so that these anarthas in terms of enjoyment can be subsided, because, you know, so much I still want to try to enjoy this material world. But at least I can recognize that Srila Prabhupada has given us the pathway out and try to have faith. And then in terms of other people, I would say, you know, from what I understand, we can just try to get them to take Srila Prabhupada's books so that they can have some real true knowledge from a truly liberated soul. And then they can actually also start that process of purification so that they can, you know, move towards spiritual, like real spiritual understanding.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Okay, is there anything else anyone would like to say? Thank you very much, everyone, all of the devotees here, for tolerating my class. I hope to give more if the devotees would like that, and thank you. Okay. Okay,
Thank you very much, Sasi-sekhara Prabhu.
thank you. Vansha- So that's it. Right. Let's go here. Vansha Kopa to.
Dhruvischa, Kripasindhu Vyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you.